Welcome to the channel, and let's look at the effects of overexploitation of natural resources on poverty in Africa. From your screen you can see some three pictures that can just be used to summarize the ways how our resources are exploited. As you can see from the first picture there, we are seeing some children which are working perhaps on a certain mine. We will find out later. Actually, it's a mine in Burkina Faso. The second picture, the same. We are seeing people exhausting some resources there. We shall get to know which resources are those as we continue. And then on the third picture also, we see some tree logs which have been cut probably from forests. Now, when talk about exploitation of resources, we talk about using resources beyond their limits. But let's look at the examples of natural resources, and these examples, they include things like forests. We have water resources. We also have soil in entirety. That includes all that's found under the soil. Then after that, we also have fish that can be related with water resources, but we have decided to put them separately because they are two distinct resources, which of course, when you look at them, they have been overexhausted separately. Then we also have another resource that we can also look at is rocks and stones. We have decided to put them together because we have those rocks that are mined as minerals, others are stones for maybe constructions and some other things like that. Then under that, as you can see, I have now told you that when we talk about exploitation, is actually defined as harvesting a renewable resource to the point of diminishing returns. Now, when the resources mentioned above get overexhausted, there happens an adversely negative impact on the people as it affects their livelihood. Now, let's look at some of these side effects. We will start with number one, that's the exploitation of forests. So studies show that forests around the East African region and even in Africa, they face increased pressures from timber companies, agricultural businesses, and local populations that use forest resources. As you can see in that picture, it's an example of a timber it's some tree logs which perhaps will be used for different uses, like maybe making timber. It can be used for firewood, maybe also even make charcoal, several uses. And then after that, we also have a look at how this can be done. It's done usually through reckless and unlimited clearing of forest due to human activities such as the ones that I'll show you in the coming slide. That is, so these activities that can lead to deforestation, they include things like farming. We have charcoal production. Others can clear forest for settlement. This actually a very rampant event that's happening, particularly in Africa, as the population is also increasing. Maybe people are looking for more settlements because of now overpopulation. Others also can clear forest for production of timber and even constructions, which of course can be for settlement or for other infrastructure, maybe like schools, other infrastructure like hospitals, markets, etc. Now, let us look at the relationship between deforestation and poverty. Now, we ask a question: how does deforestation lead to poverty? It's very simple actually. For example, when the forests are cut, communities depending on forest first lose their sources of income. Here it can mean those communities, for example, who use the forest resources like maybe charcoal to get the income. Now it has been overexhausted. They will no longer have access to this income. For example, those communities who also use medicinal herbs as a source of livelihood, they lose these important medicinal plants because now the forests have been exhausted. Some medicinal herbs have become extinct. They can no longer get them. So it means that now they have lost those important medicinal plants. Also, those people who depend on wild food like wild meat and fruits, they also lose their livelihood. The second resource that we have to look at is the exploitation of fisheries. So fish can be exploited through overfishing. As I have shown you in that picture, you can see so many fish that are being caught using a net, perhaps in a very large water body like an ocean like that, or something like a lake. And we are told that when this happens, it can happen even through illegal fishing and poor stroke inadequate management of fisheries. So when the overfishing happens, it actually directly affects the fishermen community as they directly depend on fishing for their livelihood. So number 3, we also have to look at the exploitation of water resources. So the water resources can be exploitation of this can be as a result of unsustainable water use due to inefficient irrigation practices, which in turn can lead to water scarcity in many African countries. So when we have unsustainable water use, maybe we have inefficient irrigation practices, maybe people have not been trained on how to do these irrigation practices, it in turn leads to water scarcity in many African countries. And the scarcity of water actually is the greatest menace that we can experience, because when this happens, it leads to increased agricultural challenges, therefore reducing crop yields, hence leading to poverty among the rural populations. So economic dependence and poverty increase because now we find that the damage of subsistence agriculture, therefore it leads to destruction of harvest and confiscation of agricultural land, all of which result in interrupting the food chain and destroying people's livelihoods. Now, in many rural areas, people rely on agriculture and the environment for their livelihood. As the environment is degraded, agriculture becomes a much less sustainable source of income for these families. Now, number 4, we look at exploitation of soil and its resources. Now, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, around 33% of the Earth's soil are presently classified as either moderately to highly degraded, with projections indicating that more than 90% could face degradation by the year 2050 and thus cause a significant economic consequences. So, with such rate of erosion of fertile soil, the agricultural commodity prices now will tend to increase significantly, and this in return will create high levels of poverty in Africa. Now, so in summary, in this presentation we have mainly looked at 4 main resources that are being exhausted at an industrial scale in Africa, and which of course are now life-threatening. These resources that we have looked at include: number 1, we have forests, we have water resources, we have fisheries, soil and minerals. So the exploitation of these have effects, and the effects in relation to poverty, they include: 1, we have reduced catches, which leads to now poverty. We have increased agricultural commodities prices, which creates also poverty. We have loss of livelihood for those communities that depend on forest food. Then also we have loss of biodiversity and extinction of important wild species, which deprives developing nations foreign income through tourism. So thank you for watching, and kindly subscribe to the channel for more updates. Africa must be great. Thank you.